I have another screen here. I look when we started. I suppose we are alive. Okay, we are alive.
Yeah.
Good morning, Prasath. Good morning, Prasath. Good afternoon for you, or good night. I don't know which hour is in Chennai, India. But we have welcome to SAP Inside Track Fortaleza. We have Prasath Elumalai. Prasath comes from Chennai, India. Prasath, you can put another. You have some sound at the background. I don't know where. Someone is talking so loud.
Just give me a minute.
Yes, it's nice. So I continue with the presentation. Prasath Elumalai is from Chennai, India. It's SAP consultant, SCM, PPPI, KM, and DMS. He has more than 6 years of working experience in SAP consulting industry. He is a senior consultant in SAP supply chain management planning and good operation. He is involved in full cycle implementation projects and supports projects in S/4HANA and ECC. Okay, after this short presentation of your resume, now the space is yours. You can start. Welcome, Prasath, and thank you very much for attending our event, SAP Inside Track Fortaleza.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manuel, for the nice introductions. So good morning, good evening, and good night to everyone who are watching this in YouTube. So welcome to the session. Once again, I'm thanking you, Manuel, for the short introduction about myself. Let us not wait for it. Let us get into the interesting topics today. That is on MRP Live in S/4HANA. So basically S/4HANA brings, there are a lot of opportunities for the business to get into for the effective business tracking and to take a decision for the business improvements. There are a lot of features now that S/4HANA has given this. Basically S/4HANA it's given to that. It's basically runs in an in-memory database, so it gives a good performance in both and technical and that functionality to the business as well. So now today we are going to see the topics about MRP Live in S/4HANA. So when we talk about this MRP Live, maybe where you can easily understood that what it's MRP Live, what it brings to the effective to the business. So basically MRP Live, it's called we could understand from the title itself, it's basically deals with always a live data. So we won't see about that historical data. We'll be always only dealing about the live data. So that's how we are going to discuss about this MRP Live in S/4HANA. So let's get into the deeper topics. Before that, big thanks to the entire sponsor team.
You can share your. You are not sharing your. Okay, now that's okay. Continue. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, just big thanks to the entire sponsor team who was put in the efforts and the supports to these events. So without them, it is not even the possible to organize the successful events. Earlier, almost we are into the second edition. Maybe last week we gone for the almost on-site event where the people has taken almost all the interesting topics. Now we are into that second edition, which is hosted in the online. So once again, thanks to the entire sponsors team who are listed here. So maybe I'll be giving the short introduction myself. Prasath, based out of in India, Chennai. So basically, when we talk about myself, basically I have a good exposure in S4HANA implementations, project supports, and rollouts and migrations as well. Almost I involved all kind of industries like automotive industries and the agricultural equipments, beverages industries, and the consumer products, also into the fashion industries as well. So almost I involved implementation projects in all about the industries. So I'll be expertise in logistics module like production planning, quality management, plant maintenance, and project system. Also, I'm into document management system modules as well. So also I have a rich experience in shop floor automation along with any SAP and a kind of an any ERP which deals with the kind of IoT, or we'll talk about the little bit later on this. Also I have a better skills about the support projects almost in the almost entire logistics module as well. So when it's talk about this MRP Live, so there are a lot of feature has been introduced in S4HANA in terms of MRP. Basically, it's business you, as I told you in earlier, it's S4HANA MRP is based in-memory platform, which brings us almost to kind of all the kind of improvements over the conventional ECC MRP, which are used to run in terms of the classical MRP. When we talk about these improvements, it's basically when we talk about the classical MRP, it's almost run in ABAP coding, which brings a lot of spaces when they're running the data and to do the calculation of the shortages. But when it comes to this MRP level, it's all the data and the readings which is hosted in that HANA memory, which will not take much time as compared to the classical MRP which used to run that. Also, when it's come to the S4HANA, as it's always a power packed with the Fiori, it's given a lot of applications, which is giving with a good that experience management to the base user to have a good kind of user interfaces, which is comes with the Fiori application. In S4HANA also, which is MRP also has some kind of Fiori application, which is give the good experience or the rich experience to the user to handle with any kind of situation handling, to take a decision, to have that track of the business planning, so where we can have the visibility in terms of the Fiori application as well. Also, as I told you earlier, it's brought in a simplified approach to various business. Maybe it's there are kind of performance improved in S4HANA. Also, there are business which is also simplified. And this simplification list has been SAP has maybe given in terms of the simplification list, which you can maybe get into the OSS notes as well. So basically, as I told you, that is basically S4HANA systems are declustered and depooled as per the default MRP Live. When we wanted to have this declustered table and depooled in terms of it is you no need to do any extra additional activity, where it's a simply business function activated. So automatically, rest of the remaining SOR it's always by default with MRP Live. That's all. Maybe we will not have any additional configurations for MRP Live. It's coming with the default data in terms of the S4HANA. And also, if you wanted to achieve by the manually, you can just simply achieve implementing this logic SQL script, which, as I told you, it is purely runs on the database server. So maybe when basically in a classical MRP, when you want to run the MRP, it's always take the list of all material and trying to read the shortage calculation for every individual level of code level, the bill of material code level. It trying to take the data from the tables, it read the planning file entry, it trying to do all the calculations and to find out the shortage of quantity and to give the proposal. It takes a lot of times to read the individual material for every tables. So it's happening through that front and back. So it's going the data, read the data from that the table and coming back to the calculation. It's happening almost every individual material. But when it comes to S4HANA, it's take all the material, it just going to the one shot, it reads all the planning file entry calculation and it give the proposal. So it will not take in a much time as compared to the ECC. When we talk about the classical MRP. But even this MRP Live, so still that classical MRP is placed in S4HANA. Maybe the customer who are maybe that familiar with the classical MRP, they can go with that. But however, maybe additionally they given the MRP Live, you can have an experience on that MRP Live. It will give the good decision making to the business as well. So as I told you, it's a simplified data model. It's basically in terms of the HANA database. It's achieving the big role in terms of achieving this end. Maybe this basically is underlying that SAP HANA database. It's eliminates, as I told you, many of the tables it is eliminated. So because when we talk about the classical MRP, every time to read that planning file entry, they have to do there are so much of lookups calculation to get that the planning file entries, to get the shortage calculation, to see the lot sizing procedures. So those things, every time it has to do the lookups calculation in terms of that tables level in terms of the classical MRP. But it's, as I told you, when it's run to S4HANA, it's all that it is running in memory database. It will not do the much timing. It will do the calculation within a fraction of time. It will do that. Also, MRP Live also have the possibility to plan with the PPDS, which is also comes with that MRP in HANA system, which is also possible to the combined with the MRP Live. So where maybe the planners can only do that single planning, both MRP Live and the PPDS planning as well. They can put together plan into do the background job scheduling. It will do the single planning. Also, that MRP, the features when you talk about it, by comparing with the classical MRP and the MRP Live, to read the planning file entry, there are a lot of the program which is required in terms of the classical MRP. Maybe this that RM, MM, DVM 20. It's a kind of the where we can have the planning file entry will be required. Once the planning file entry is taken, then again it has to goes to the another that program has to run, that's a RM DVL10, where it has to do the kind of the simulation kind of activity in the classical MRP. But when it comes to the MRP Live, where it's only the one program which is running in the background to take all the records and get into the HANA database, and it's to the planning calculation, it will do it will just come back to that, it will give the MRP proposals. So we have only the single the program and the tables are required to do this all kind of the calculation as well. So another the good thing which is implemented in MRP Live is basically it's MRP, the source has been fully optimized. When it comes to the classical MRP, where you will have to have the lot of the master data, like said, you need to have the source list and you need to have the quota arrangement. So there are so much of master data has been given to the classical MRP. But when it comes to this MRP Live, where almost most of the master data has been completely eliminated. So user no need to maintain the much of master data, like say, you no need to maintain that source list, so which is no more required in terms of the source optimization or the source determination in terms of the MRP Live. So as I told you, it's the MRPs, as I told you, it's have the Fiori functionality, which is given the MRP cockpit also given, which is maybe the user can able to see that the result, they can take a decision to can evaluate the result. So maybe that it will give a good and a rich experience to the business to take a decision for the planning of the materials. So basically, when it's talk about this MRP Live, it's always creates a delivery schedule lines wherever the material is procured externally. Maybe when it comes to the classical MRP, where you will have the kind of the indicator to take a decision whether you need to have the purchase requisition, or you need to have the delivery schedule line, or you can have to have the planned order, or you need to have the purchase requisition by the opening period. So there are a lot of indicator has been placed in terms of the classical MRP. But when it comes to the MRP, that's a fully automated. So wherever that planning with the material comes with the external procurement, automatically system will see that whether it has the external procurement, it's by default it will going to create a purchase requisition either at the schedule line if the valid the scheduling agreement or the other the purchase order exists. So it will not create you no need to choose the whether you want to have the PR or you need to have the schedule line. Maybe the UI has been completely redefined where user no need to get confused or no need to select those data as well. So another one concrete advantage we could say that it's, as I told you, it's a much faster basically. Maybe that when maybe MRP calculation will be the very bottlenecks when the performance when it's talk about the HANA any database, because it is a tough, maybe that's a complex calculation which is doing the MRP because it requires a lot of space and the memories to do this calculation. But MRP it's completely hosted in that memory the database. It's do the calculation, it's a fraction of second, as I told you. So where it's have the only lesser time to do the MRP that material requirement planning when it's go for the MRP Live. So as I told you in UI experience, the first screen it's talk about the MRP Live, where in the second screen it's talk about the classical MRP, which you need to have it. So MRP Live as the maybe that planner can able to go with the individual MRP. Suppose when you talk about the kind of the bigger industries where they can have the multiple MRP controller, they'll be the the material planner will be responsible for the particular commodities, kind of the commodity wise, they can able to take a decision, and they can able to go with the MRP run even with the Fiori application as well as in the SAP GUI as well. So in that MRP application or the Fiori application, maybe the MRP controller can able to choose that what is the MRP controller with the who is responsible to that, and what are that the scheduling is going to involve, what are the planning mode is required. So these are all the data the planner has to choose in terms of the MRP. But when it's talk about the classical MRP, where user has to have the what kind of processing key you wanted to have, whether you wanted to have the purchase requisition or you want to have the schedule line. So those things maybe he has to choose in terms of the classical MRP. Maybe the disadvantage of this MRP Live, maybe we could see that as I told you in earlier, MRP Live is always deals with the live data where system will not write any MRP list. So that is how maybe the MRP list, it's simply a static data or kind of last MRP data which is stored in a kind of a table, where maybe whenever they wanted to see the last MRP result, they can see the older result. That's what the MRP list which is having it. But when you run the live with an MRP live transaction, where system won't write a MRP list because it always deals with the live data. So you will not have the MRP list report in this MRP live. So as I told you in the source optimization, maybe as I told you that where there are a lot of master data has been eliminated, like you no need to have the source list in classical MRP, where source list also be a kind of the source determination. But in S4HANA and MRP Live, where they have created the SAP has created a CDS view where a list of the priority has been given to the business, where they no need to have the separate master data. They can simply have a scheduling agreement with or without plan, or they can have the contracts with or without plan. So they can have that info record. So that's what you need to have it. You don't need to have the kind of the quote arrangement. You don't need to create it for the source determination, because it's by default it comes with the quote arrangement. Maybe in classical, maybe in the ECC, SAP ECC ERP, where you need to have an indicator to decide to go with that quota arrangement. But now that particular indicator has been completely avoided in terms of the MRP, in that S4HANA MRP. And where maybe in classical and the ECC MRP, where you need to have a source list, where you need to have that quota arrangement, but that will completely avoided in that MRP Live in S4HANA, where you have only the valid scheduling agreement, you have a valid contracts or valid, you have an info record. That is more than sufficient to enough to do the source determination. So that's completely sourcing is optimized in terms of the MRP Live. So maybe when we talk about this comparison, maybe there are kind of what kind of planning models is complete. When we talk about the speed, how long they're taken to complete the MRP, what kind of interface is given to the business or the users to have the richer experience. So in the legacy MRP, where you have that you need to have the capacity and the MRP as both are manually reconciled, because MRP will run in another maybe in separate, and capacity planning also has been separate. But in terms of the MRP Live, it's both constrained and unconstrained planning put together in a same system, where you no need to have the manual calculation to do the reconciliation of that MRP and the capacity planning, which are given together in same system, where constrained planning and unconstrained planning are taken care by the systems. Also, for the speed of MRP, as I told you that MRP is the complex calculation which is carried out, which is a bottleneck for the performance of any database. So it is in legacy, the CCC MRP, it's there are a lot of data which is stored in kind of hard disk, which is do the calculation for that. Before creating the proposal, it has to read that what kind of bill of material, what kind of lot we have to choose, is what kind of rounding they have to do by the suppliers. There are a lot of calculation which has to be carried out for each and every material, that to and fro to do the calculation in the legacy, the CCC MRP. But in MRP Live, it comes with the in-memory database, with the column database, where a system will read all the data in single shot, which will go and read that all the kind of planning file entries that will create a proposal. So the course of time which is taking to the complete MRP is typically reduced as compared to the classical MRP. And when we talk about the user interface, where you will not have the like where the kind of the indicator, the purchase question indicator has been placed in terms of the ECC MRP. But in talk about MRP Live, there are some, the colorful screen has been given, which is maybe we can call it as the Fiori application, which has been given to the business to take a faster decision or to take any kind of change management. We wanted to give the information to the supplier, so those they can take easily. And also even we can able to run the MRP in even through the Fiori application as well. So that we have that much facility we have in terms of this, that MRP Live. So when we talk about these Fiori applications, as I told you, there are a lot of Fiori application has been given in terms of MRP to get the reach or good experience to the business, where business can able to get the data. Business can able to get the analytics reports. It just come because it comes to the embedded analytics, that HANA. So they can able to get the analytics reports. They can able to take the what kind of shortages. So because it gives the clear information or the clarity to the business to take any kind of decision if they wanted to take. So which has there are a lot of Fiori application for example, I given some of the applications where the Moniter Material coverage, where the business can able to monitor what are the whether how long the material is coverages to meet the customer requirements. They can able to separate that what are the internal requirement which is required. The maybe the planner can able to monitor that. So what are the requirements for the next 1 week or the next couple of days to meet the customer requirements. Also which has been given for the even for external requirement, where the buyer can able to monitor that what kind of materials has to be put into the line to meet that production shop floor without any the distraction. Also they can able to get the what kind of that the display MRP material. This apps comes with the good maybe the good experience, where business can able to take a decision if they have any issues like before running the MRP. Maybe that this Fiori application can give the clarity to the business. Suppose if any MRP material has kind of the with inconsistent or the insufficient material master data or kind of a master data issue, maybe this application can able to easily identify. So maybe the business can able to get into these apps and they can solve from these apps itself. So before running the MRP, it will have the glance of that apps. So with app which is can able to fix the any master data inconsistency or the master data missing, they can able to fill into the Fiori applications as well. So let's get into the sample Fiori apps. So this also one of the Fiori apps where the business can able to schedule a MRP even through these Fiori applications. So like they have to which kind of that MRP controller there belongs to, what are the plant is responsible for the, what are the material is going to responsible. So those data they can able to choose from the Fiori applications, and they can run the MRP even with the background. So this is the Fiori application which is given for the MRP line. Also, if suppose if the business has the multiple MRP controller, and maybe the user can able to see the list of background jobs or the list of MRP controller which are already been scheduled. So with the Fiori application can able to take that what are the MRPs completed, what are the MRPs going on. So maybe the planner can able to take a decision whether what are the commodities he has to look into this, or he has to take a maybe the put concentration on to that. So this is the one, the sample Fiori apps, that's the material monitor coverage apps, which is the kind of, which is give them maybe when you look at the screen where you will have the kind of that colors, where maybe business can able to see that if the color has the red indicator, maybe you can see that it is so and so date, it's shortfall. So maybe business has to put a kind of more the take care on this material to arrive at the plant. Maybe in fact the green indicator, maybe that we could see that maybe this material can able to cover the next, maybe that able to make 7 or 14 days, because this colored maybe that indicator or the number of days can be fixed by yourself, where you can able to change into you wanted to have the next 1 week or whether you wanted to have the next 14 days. So those settings can be able to change in this Fiori applications. So from these Fiori applications, if you wanted to have some, for example, if you have the multiple supplier for the same material, so in that, suppose if any material is not able to supplied by the supplier, because we have the that you are sharing the business to the two supplier, where you can able to change that, take a decision to go with the only one supplier. So those kind of decision you can able to make or take from these Fiori applications. So when it comes to the new technologies which are put in MRP, basically it's a now this is the latest technology which are every business, or because we are into the new evolution of the manufacturing, when we talk about this industry 4.0, where all that the concentration are put into this, how we can able to digitize the all kind of processes which the manufacturing plant having it. So maybe in future, maybe that the SAP can able to put into that more focus, maybe that focus onto this machine learning or kind of artificial intelligence to do the advanced planning process, so that maybe business can able to take a even better decision or even better planning as per the current result which are given in terms of the MRP Live. Also now now the continuously they're monitoring the condition which is machine learning can able to place in terms of the MRP, so that they can able to continually monitor the activities which are carried out in terms of the business, or they can able to precise the model which are going onto the shop floor, or they can able to precise the what is the material which is in transit, so that they can able to give the good recommendation to the business what kind of decision which has to perform, so that where maybe the machine learning can able to integrate with this MRP. So that's maybe the technologies are which newly we can able to brought into that. And another important, as I told you, like the industry internet of things which is being the concentrated onto the every business. So very good, the industry 4.0, as I told you, where that could going to be the next generation of the term which where they're able to do the profilation of inexpensive data, and they can able to take the smart solution, because there are in term when we talk about the shop floor or the industry which are connected with the so much of machine application, or kind of so much assembly, or so much of that the machine assembly parts, or robotics assembly which are connected to this. So those can be connected with that smart sensor, or kind of the connected sensor which can able to virtually that industry 4.0 can able to connect all those data together, so we can have the closed loop connections, so which can able to give the good visibility to the business, so that this technology can able to give the good information to the MRP planning, which can able to take the good decision as well. So as I told you, even MRP Live also has some kind of limitations. Maybe that in there are this OSS note has been clearly given to the what kind of limitation are the MRP Live has this. So even there are kind of the planning, the reorder point planning, which was not yet optimized. Also the cost-based planning also not yet optimized in terms of the MRP Live. Also, when it's talk about this, the parameter efficiency, which is not yet been optimized in terms of the MRP Live. Also, as I told you in earlier, since it deals always with the live data, which will not write a MRP list, because it's as I told you, it's a simply a static result of MRP. So which will not going to, because the static result of MRP which is stored in, there are a couple of tables which has the huge data which is showing in the MD05 in terms of the MRP list result. So which is not going to be right in terms of the MRP list. Also the kind of the multi-level planning, like that project planning and that sales order planning, those and all, it is not yet optimized in terms of the MRP list. Still it is in still it is able to run with deals with the classical MRP. So when we talk about this MRP, the roadmap. So roadmap, we have this S4 that SAP has kind of the because now even MRP can able to do the much of that the innovation to the MRP kind of thing. So they have the good roadmap for the processes to improve or to give the clarity to the business. So where in terms of the Q4 of this year, they are planning to collaboration between the supplier and the SAP system who are using it. Suppose if the supplier able to has the which is connected with the SAP MRP, so they can able to connect to these the supplier and the customer can able to integrate together, and if any changes is happening in terms of the MRP Live or in terms of the planning, so they can able to connect it with the API, they can able to share that any the purchase order changes of dates or kind of the quantity, where they can able to share the information together. So those they are planning to do deploy in Q4 2021 in S4 HANA. And the same year, they are able to plan to invent the new MRP type, which is give the good visibility to the repetitive manufacturing industries. So where they can able to have the repetitive manufacturing industries all deals with always the planned order, which they can able to get the clear demand driven products. So where they are planning to implement or introduce the new MRP type, it's a D2, to especially focus on to this the repetitive manufacturing industries. And the same thing on the same the year, they're planning to have the, as I told you, they're planning to collaborate between the supplier, whatever the process we are having it. So any information which you wanted to share it, maybe there they can able to share the informations. Like suppose I have a supplier with XY quantity with he has to delivered on so and so date. So the SAP has given the Fiori applications which they're going to give, where they suppose they wanted to like suppose they need to supply on XY date, and due to some kind of the planning or the sudden changes in the customer requirement, if they wanted to change, they can simply they give the information to the supplier which are connected to the APIs. So those they can able to do that. Also, they're in the Q3 2022, which is planning to cover these the coverage apps, which will give the extendability to the user improvements as well, which basically cover the kind of the improvement of, because we are using the material monitoring coverage apps. They're going to do the kind of the innovation or kind of new feature addition to the tab, which is the planning to give on S4HANA, that's on cloud, that's Q3 2022. Also on Q4 2022, they're planning to have the do the innovation to the Kanbans. So there maybe as of now we have a Kanban process where you do not have the simulation kind of thing. Where in that Q4 22 in the S4HANA edition, they're planning to do the simulation MRP or the predictive material resource planning MRP to the Kanban cycles, where they can able to do that simulation of that each MRP controller, or sorry, each Kanban cycle, whatever the bin they're having it, they can able to do the plan, the simulation of MRP planning for each Kanban, the whatever the control cycle which they're having it. So these are all that roadmap which they're brought into that. Yeah, maybe that any questions from anybody, this they can raise it. Emmanuel.
Very well, very well. Thank you very much, Prasath.
Yeah, thank
Prasath,
you.
we have here one question from Alexander Faraco, that is
Okay.
is looking your presentation. And Prasath, what is the biggest advantage of modern MRP compared to legacy MRP? What brings more value to the business area? Is just the MRP Live? What is the biggest change? Where we can obtain more value?
Yeah, basically that MRP level it brings it is, since it is going to be the bottlenecks of performance, where it maybe the sourcing is fully optimized in terms of the MRP level, where maybe the much of mass data can be eliminated, like the quota arrangement or the source list can be avoided. Also, it will not write a static that MRP result, where maybe the business no need to look at the older data or the historical data of MRP level. They can able to deal with that the live data, where business can able to take a decision easily as compared to the classical MRP result. Also, it comes with the Fiori applications, where business can able to take a decision by looking at the, is there any short supply with the given date, so they can able to take a decision as much as possible early.
Okay, we don't have no more questions. Thank you very much for honoring our event with your excellent lecture. And I suppose we can continue our collaboration. And the next year, we wait for you again with your knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Manuel. We will definitely collaborate for every year. We'll try to give that good information to the SAP community members, also to the entire people who are looking at it. Thank you so much for the audience who are looking at this. Please put your comments or put your any question which you are having it. We can able to maybe try to answer it as much as possible.
Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye, guys. See you more.
Bye bye. Thank you so much. Okay. Bye bye.
See you.